Hello, beautiful. Welcome to the She Sacral podcast. I'm your host, Lindsay Christian. Let's go ahead and get started with today's episode. Hello, sacral beauties. Welcome to the She Sacral podcast, where we focus on burnout recovery through the power of sacred pleasure. So welcome. Today, we're going to dive into the very first stage of burnout, which is going to be the need to prove one's self. We're going to talk about how that can look like ambition on the outside, but feel like pressure on the inside. So we'll break down the different stages, the root causes, and how this is affecting your body on a deep level. Now, what's crazy is I don't think a lot of people realize that we're already in the first stage of burnout when you feel this need to prove yourself. And man, I think we start off trying to prove ourselves even as children. So I think we're all a little burned out without realizing it. So let's talk about what the stage can look like. Some common signs can be overachieving, overextending yourself, and always saying yes. Yes, I could do it. Yeah, no problem. Sure, I could do this. Yeah, I could do it. And it's just kind of like, innate. You're going to always say yes, and people start to learn that about you. They know, oh, that's the go-to. I know that she's going to give her very best to whatever it is I ask her to do, and she's always going to say yes, so I'm going to ask her. It can also look like needing to be seen as capable, strong, and helpful. It can also be seen or felt as having a competitive mindset, but mostly with yourself. Oftentimes we think it's safe to say, I'm not competing with anybody. I'm just competing with my old self. I'm competing with myself every day. As if competing with yourself or competing with someone else is any different. Competing is still competing. When we're competing, we're in a space of fighting. Competition is like a light form of fighting, right? There's no hostility that's there. Maybe there is. Sometimes hostility can come up when we're in a competitive space, but it is an energy of fight and conflict because you want to win, right? If you find yourself even competing within yourself, you're fighting with yourself. There's always going to be this inner sense of turmoil. And so I know it can sound all like humble or like, I'm just competing myself. I don't compete with other people. It doesn't matter. It's still the energy of competing, and it's still affecting you on a deeper level when it comes to burnout. It can also look like constantly seeking validation from others, but not from within. So oftentimes we can run into this when we have essentially been told a lie. Maybe you were bullied growing up. Maybe someone told you that you were ugly or you weren't attractive or nobody would want you. Or maybe you'll never make enough money or you're dumb or any of these awful things that people say. Maybe that's been said to you and it is stuck in your subconscious mind. So much so that you spend most of your time in life trying to prove that you are not that horrible thing that people say that you are. So then you project anything out there to try to compete with that inner dialogue that is eating away at you. And you're hoping that others will be able to give you that validation so that you can be able to say, see, I'm not that thing anymore. We gravitate towards this because who told us those awful things? We did not tell us that. We received that from an outside source. And so our brain will naturally try to undo the thing that we've experienced from the same type of source. So externally, if we received that negative feedback or insults, then externally we want to receive compliments and positive feedback. It's not coming from within. And so oftentimes we can say to ourselves, if I just do more, they'll finally see me. If I stay busy, I'll stay worthy. Those are the common beliefs I held when it came to entrepreneurship. Now let's talk about the root cause of this stage, which is connected to the performance wound. And the core belief is that I am only worthy when I perform. And this is often rooted in our childhood patterns of conditional love. If someone says, I love you when you do this, or you are such a good girl when you do that. I love when you do this for me. I love you more when you do that for me. Or the opposite. If you do this, I won't love you. Sometimes the parent may say certain things, or the caregiver, whoever may say certain things to try to get you to stop doing things, but it really is just such a dysfunctional way of communicating love and discipline. If you've been praised for achievements but not feelings, we talked about this in our sacral codes, where you are being celebrated for the things that you do, not for how you feel, but your body rewards those feelings. Your body provides those endorphins when you're crying or when you're feeling pain. Your body provides you with the dopamine when you're on the right track and you're feeling good. Your body rewards you with serotonin so you can feel nice and calm. Your body's always rewarding your emotional presence. Although our mind can override those emotions and create emotional distortion or dis-ease, meaning there's no ease within those emotions. Another root in this performance wound can be created from environments where rest or softness was seen as being lazy or selfish. And this creates a nervous system that confuses pressure with love. Many women can mistake that chronic achievement for identity. This is who I am. I am highly successful. I am the top lawyer, the top doctor. I'm the best in this company. We can start to make all of that our identity. This is who we are. But in reality, it's just a sense of survival. It's not who you are. It's something you do. And this is why when we reach the space of burnout, we completely become unglued, and that thing that we did, the thing that we identified with so much, actually becomes the complete opposite of us. We just resist it altogether once we go through burnout, which we will at some point. It will hit us. So let's talk a little bit about how this stage can impact your hormones and your nervous system. So in stage 1, when we're trying to prove ourselves, this will activate that chronic stress very early. This is going to start to elevate cortisol and adrenaline. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the HPA axis. What is the HPA axis? Hypothalamic pituitary axis. So your hypothalamus, your pituitary gland, and your ovaries all communicate together. And it creates this sense of balance. It's like a triangle. And so when this starts to become disrupted, your brain, the hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, it starts to affect the way that they send messages, the way that they communicate with the rest of the body. If one of these is disconnected or out of balance, it's going to affect your cycles. It's going to create an increased heart rate. It's going to create muscle tension. It's going to create digestive issues. And it can create the feeling of being wired but tired at the same time, where it is really difficult for you to get yourself into a space of rest. Your body will learn to override your hunger, your sleepiness, your sense of desire, your intuition, and it creates an energetic consequence where your body will literally stop trusting your rest cues because you've stopped listening. You can make all the sleepy mocktails, use the lavender diffuser, Try to add the blackout curtains, try to rest as much as you can, but when you've gotten into a pattern of constantly shutting that down for the sake of work or whatever it is that's pulling your energy, even if it's caregiving or caretaking, whatever it is that is truly draining your energy and burning you out, when you constantly override that at the time that you're ready to rest, you're ready to relax, there is disorder in your body. So we have to stay connected and listen to what our body is telling us. So let's talk a little bit about how the first stage of burnout feels inside of our body. Rest starts to feel unsafe, or it feels like you didn't earn the rest. You may feel guilty when you take a pause or you take a little break. You may feel behind even when you're ahead. There's kind of like this imaginary marathon that you are the only one running in. Although you're the only one running in it and you've already gone through one lap, you feel like you're behind because you're not on that last lap reaching the finish line. So you just keep going and keep pushing. You struggle to really feel proud or satisfied or feel like you've completed something or something is just done. There's always one more tweak, one more change, one more edit. It just keeps going. Or maybe you just keep starting over and over and over again. When it comes to life, life becomes the next thing. What's the next thing that's on my list to do? Not a sense of presence. And so you could be doing everything right, but feeling everything wrong. So let's talk a little bit more about why this particular stage triggers burnout. Because some people may say, like, well, yeah, we all want to kind of prove ourselves, but is it really that deep? Does this really cause burnout like that? When you're in the space of constantly trying to seek validation or prove yourself to others, or even to yourself, this is going to set the stage for all later stages of burnout. Everything's going to start from this space and get progressively worse. It's like gambling. Like, okay, let me just try a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. It gets hard to walk away. It trains your nervous system to be in a state of survival instead of to soften. It starts to kill creativity and pleasure, and everything becomes an act of doing and constant output. And pleasure, rest, and slowness actually starts to feel like a threat. Like that's going to threaten your success. That's going to threaten everything that you have worked so hard for, to be able to slow down, to rest, to enjoy life. That's going to create disruption and threaten your progress. That's how that first stage conditions your mind to think when you're constantly trying to prove yourself. So I want us to try to reframe this belief a little bit more, that you're never meant to earn your worth. You were born with your worthiness. You don't have to perform to belong. You don't have to put on an act to be accepted or to be received. And so some things that you could do, some tools that can help you through this process or this first stage. I love mirror work, right? So if you can look into your own eyes in the mirror and start to say, I am enough even when I rest, and I am still valuable when I do nothing at all. You can begin to incorporate a very small morning pleasure-based presence, something super simple. Maybe it's massaging your skin gently, or lighting an incense or a candle, or playing a soft, sensual song that makes you feel good, or maybe it just helps you to feel. Another big one that you could do, and this one is really helpful, is to do a proving detox. Writing down, where do I try to prove myself on a daily basis? Or if you know that you do this on a regular basis, you could check in with yourself every day and say, where did I try to prove myself today? Are you trying to prove with productivity? Are you trying to prove with people pleasing? And so we're going to replace each of those items with a nourishing opposite. So instead of proving with productivity, we're replacing that energy by having softer mornings with no checklist, no goals, no deadlines. Ooh, that's tough, isn't it? Especially when you're used to doing that. Or instead of proving with people pleasing, you're going to replace that with creating a no ritual by saying no. You can even rehearse it if you need to, if you're not used to saying no. But saying no is going to be really important. So say no on the day that you feel the need to people please. That's your cue. The pressure to prove yourself is heavy, and I think that it has a deeper weight, even depending on your race, on your background, especially for women. You know, when you're in the space that you're constantly trying to prove your value and your worthiness in an environment where you are a minority, it just gets instilled. I remember I had a professor when I was going to school for film production. I was having trouble finding work after I graduated, and he told me, well, you know what? I hate to break it to you in this country, but you're a woman and you're a woman of color. And that is a double whammy. So good luck. And I think he was trying to, quote unquote, be real. I think he was trying to, kind of give this kind of tough love perspective. But all it did was fuel this need for me to constantly prove myself. So I would layer on every skill I could learn under the book. And I would say, you know what? I want it to be absolutely impossible to reject me for a job. So I became this jack of so many trades. I started to learn how to do all these different things that I didn't even go to school for. And I'm glad that I learned these things. That's not the issue. I'm happy to learn new skills, but it was what was driving that energy. And so I was in the space of constantly trying to prove I can do this job. And so I would diminish myself in certain ways. I would just take whatever I could get because I wanted to prove that I could do it. And then I did get the jobs, but I was oftentimes overworked and undervalued. And it got to a point where I would even have people say, you should have more confidence. You're too humble. And I'm like, what the heck? I'm just trying to survive. And with that, I started to create this frequency of people having this thought pattern or believing or knowing, oh yeah, well, she can handle it. She'll do it. She works so fast. She gets things done super quick. Give it to her. And I became the one constantly doing and doing and doing and doing to the point where I didn't know how to turn that off. And that's how I operated because of that belief. The belief that I had to constantly prove my worthiness as a woman, as a minority. I had to constantly prove my sense of worthiness just to be considered. And that's not something I made up. I would see others that were maybe, they would look different, or they'd be a man that would do far less work. The quality would be less, but they seemed to be valued more. And although it can be a truth, it can be something that happens, it can be something that exists, it doesn't mean that it's the end all be all. We still have the power to rewrite that story and to work and operate in a way that serves us. And I see it happening right now. I see it so much where everyone is just so done with trying to prove and work and be a monkey with a tambourine and just trying to constantly please and entertain. And I think we're done with that story, aren't you? I'm done being the jester, the clown. That's so old and it just doesn't serve me, and it never did, So if you're in that space, then welcome. You are in the right place because we are shutting all of that down gently, gracefully, and a healed perspective. But to know that you're safe here, everything that you feel is valid, and that I am here to support you. So again, I know that pressure to prove is heavy, but it is not yours to carry. You don't have to chase your enoughness. You are enough. You do not have to chase it. And there's ways that we can express and embody our sense of worthiness. And a lot of us haven't been taught that, but you will learn that through listening more and more through this podcast. All right. Well, next up, we're going to move into stage 2, where we start actually neglecting our needs and what happens when you keep ignoring your body's whispers in order to keep achieving. So definitely subscribe and follow to be sure that you are getting notified when that next episode comes out. Of course, there are private rituals that are linked to every episode on my Substack for my paid community, so be sure to check that out. But there's also deep dives on the Substack as well. So just click the link down below and it will take you right there. All right. Well, thank yourself so much for showing up today, and thank you for tuning in to the She Sacral podcast.